Okay, well, now that I've done reviewing Men in Black 3, it is time to look at the latest Disney Pixar movie, Brave. Now, let me say this right off the bat. I love any Disney Pixar movie that has been out there. I love all of them. From Toy Story, Cars, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Finding Nemo, etc., etc. I love them. This new one, Brave, was actually really, really good. And of course, it took place in good old Scotland. And it's a very interesting movie. So, basic plot of the movie is that there's this girl named Merida who is a princess and loves archery. But of course, as she grows up, her mother is preparing her for an arranged marriage. Woo! Gee, almost kind of ripping off the plot of Mulan 2, aren't you guys? But, oh well, what can you say? However, things go downhill, and ultimately the relationship between Merida and her mom ultimately breaks down, which then leads Merida to go see a witch, voiced by Julia Walters, who you may remember from Mamma Mia, and I think was also the same person that played Mrs. Weasley in the Harry Potter movies. So there you go. But ultimately, Merida goes to see the witch to help her out and ultimately to change Merida's mom so that way she will listen to her. Of course, things go right to hell in handbasket when, of course, Merida's mom ultimately turns into a bear, which, of course, is very interesting and ultimately is kind of sad. Because if Merida doesn't find a way to unbreak the spell in a few days, or a couple days actually, then Merida's mom will remain a bear forever. Of course, this really freaks the hell out of Merida's dad, the king, who of course thinks that the bear is or resembles another bear named Mordu, who actually used to be an evil prince, and of course his douchery ways ultimately changed him into a bear as well. And throughout the course of the movie, Merida gets help from her 3 little brothers who don't have any lines of dialogue for some reason. And ultimately, everything is okay again. Merida's mom is changed back to normal, and the relationship between Merida and her mom is ultimately renewed, thanks to, well, magic, I guess. So there you go. And ultimately, Merida realizes that the whole arranged marriage thing is kind of, well, douchey, and so does her mom, and ultimately they say that maybe a person should wait to find the person that they're supposed to be with, and blah blah blah, etc., yada yada yada. So there you go. So that's basically the overall plot of Brave. Now, do I think this is the best Disney Pixar movie? Well, technically, yeah, I do. It's got a really good story. The characters are all well-rounded, and ultimately the story is resolved in an interesting, if not almost tragic sort of way, but still it is very good, and ultimately it's a very good mother-daughter relationship movie and stuff like that, and it's pretty dang impressive. I liked it. Now, of course, I saw this movie in 3D just like I did with Men in Black 3, and the 3D in both of those movies was kind of subdued, which I like. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen 3D movies before where they pretty much like threw everything at you and stuff like that. You know, movies like Spy Kids 3D and Shark Boy and Lava Girl in 3D and so on and so forth. But with Disney re-releasing some of its movies in 3D, like The Lion King and stuff like that, well, 3D was more subdued and wasn't all about throwing things at the audience like the earlier 3D movies were, which is something I like. It's what I got from this one. So there you go. But still, do I really think that Brave is the best Disney Pixar movie? Yes, I do. Now, why do I think that? Well, because the story's well executed and the characters are well rounded and they all develop in a very interesting and unique way, and everything is resolved at the end, and so on and so forth, blah blah blah, etc., etc. So there you go. Now, do I think there's a possibility for a sequel to this? No. Brave tells its story in a very good way, and it leaves absolutely no room open for a sequel, which is something I like. Especially because throughout the movie they might leave like little subtle hints as to there being a sequel or not, but with this one they don't do that. So pretty much there's not going to be another Brave. There's not going to be a Brave 2 or something like that, which of course would be ridiculous anyway, so there you go. But still, Brave is just a brilliant movie. The visuals were stunning and fantastic. The voice acting was great. Everything about it was just superb. And as for the animation, well, since this is Pixar after all, a lot of people compare Pixar animation with DreamWorks animation and stuff like that. But really, Pixar was the first to do this whole CGI animation stuff, which also led to DreamWorks doing the same thing with movies like Shrek, Megamind, and How to Train Your Dragon, etc., etc., blah, 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 blah. But still, since Pixar was the first to do this kind of stuff, they did a fantastic job with this one. It is amazing. So, there you go. Those are my thoughts on Brave, and I'll talk to you guys later to talk about the Katy Perry movie. So, till then, live long and prosper. Peace out. Bye.